everyone, Amanda here. Welcome to my channel. Thank you for joining me. So, if you're a pure junk journaler and you've seen my previous video and you hate my guts, you're going to hate me even more after you've watched this video. So, in this video, I'll just explain I am a digital creator. I like to make pretty journals with pretty papers, and I don't particularly like junk journals. Okay, not my biggest, it's just not my vibe. But I challenged myself to make one out of, I can't use any of my beautiful pretty digitals that I've got. All I can use is either junk or recycling items like books. Okay, so in this video I'm going to show you how I'm going to prep these pages, because they're Edith Holden and they're aged and I don't like it. I don't like it. Some people would die for that. I really think it's very ugly and I don't like it. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to prep my pages, and I'm going to explain why I'm going to prep my pages. Then in the second half of the video, I'm going to show you some of the ephemera that I've made. Not ephemera, the components that's going to make the ephemera. Okay, because I've got to make everything from scratch. If I want a butterfly, I can't just cut it out, one of my digitals. I've got to make the butterfly. If I want a flower, I've got to either cut it out of a book or whatever. I'm going to show you some of that process and where I've got to so far. Okay, so one thing I'm going to say here is there ain't no way in this world I'm going to be able to make 3 journals. It's not going to happen. I don't think I realised how difficult making a junk journal actually is. So I'm going to talk about that whilst I prep this page. And I'm using just bog standard gesso, and I'm prepping it because I don't like that aged yellow. It's not my vibe. I'm not precious about these papers. Okay, it's Edith Holden. Some people will be like, gasp, and clutching the pearls. It's a book. It's a book page. It's a 1970s reprint. It's not the original one that she, drew down by the river. It's a 1970s reprint. And it's an ugly one because it's aged. So I'm giving it a new purpose. We shouldn't be precious about certain things, because if you get precious about something, you hoard it and you don't use it. So what's the point in having it if it's just going to sit doing nothing? Okay, so I'm repurposing it. My journal is not about Edith Holden. Okay, I'm using these pages as bases. So, if you want to hate on me for it, you can. I'm really not bothered, because my journal is not going to be a dark grungy style of junk journal. Again, I don't want to just follow the crowd and think everything has to be dark and grungy when it comes to junk journaling. No, I'm gonna try my best to add some pops of colour. I'm adding some powder pink and some pale blue in here. So these yellow grungy pages have got to go, and I'm just lightening them. Okay, you can still see what was underneath. I'm just lightening them. I've got a painty effect, so it's more like a kind of art journal kind of vibe, and also it's giving me a base because I'm just waiting on some stencils that I've bought arriving, and I'm going to be stenciling these pages with acrylic paints and things. Pretty stencils. Not one lady said she didn't like when people do blobs on a page. And don't quite think I'll be doing that. It'll be nice stenciling, So there we go. So that is how I'm going to be prepping all of my pages. So this one, I've gessoed the whole thing and then I just sponged off. And we've got it almost looks like it's been printed on vellum, like it's a transparent see-through page. It's lovely. I really like it. And then these are a bit more like scratchy lines, a bit more textured, and I quite like it. So that's what I'm going to be doing to all of my pages. It's lightening them. Right, so now I'm going to talk about my ephemera. So here's my little tray. Now I've got to make all my ephemera from scratch. I can't cut out any of the ephemera that I've already made digitally. I've got to make everything from scratch. So before I can even make a tag or a journal card, I've got to make the things that go on it. So I'm going to fast forward the video and show you how I've made some of the elements, and then at the end I'll come and I'll share my tray of goodies with you. And this is the start of my journal. There'll be you know, I will be back. I'll be doing, I don't know, 2 or 3 or 4 videos on this process and then a final reveal. But I don't think there's going to be 3 journals. So let's get on to the embellishments that are going to go on my ephemera. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I've made my leaves. So I'm going to show you the very bare basic shapes of the leaves. Now, if you look on YouTube and look up collage fodder, there's hundreds of ladies making these. You just draw a very simple stalk, very simple oval shaped leaves to each side. Just make sure that they join at a kind of point to where the stalk is. Make sure that you've got quite decent space in between the leaves so that you can get your scissors in and cut them. And here's another very basic one. It's just a stalk and then circles, blobs going down, and that's all you need to do. So that's just me showing you the very basic shapes that I'm going to draw, and then I'm drawing them on these photographic pages. I would never use these in a journal. I would flick straight past these pages, but this is a great way of using these, and especially with all of the greens. And it is a very much trust the process type of thing, and I challenge you to give it a try, because those drawings will look like my dog's done them with one paw tied behind his back. But when you put them on that, look at those, when you put it onto those photographic images and then fussy cut them out, it's like magic. So I start by cutting to the far side of the stalk, so I'm not cutting dead on the line, and then I cut around. So it doesn't matter if you're not terribly brilliant at fussy cutting, it doesn't matter if you're dead on the line, if you miss the line, as long as you get the basic shape. And when you get to the stalk, don't cut right up to the line. That way you're leaving a thick stalk at each side, enough surface area to glue. And it really is like something magic, because it's not until you've completely cut the whole thing out that you see all of the different tones of colour, and you know, you can't always necessarily distinguish what used to be underneath. But you just get this multitude of colours and it looks fantastic. Give it a try. Don't blame me if you get addicted. It's the best fun ever. I think this is one technique I will be using in my normal journals for sure, because it's fun. So here I'm doing a similar process, but I'm stamping with a butterfly stamp over you know, a floral shrub to get those coloured backgrounds. If you don't have you know, everybody's got at least one butterfly stamp, okay? Also, you can stamp over the text, and then I'm lucky I do have a punch for this, so I don't have to fussy cut them. So there you're getting a nice artsy kind of butterfly, but I also do fussy cut some real image butterflies from some natural history ones, natural history books. But this is a really good way of using up, you know, your book pages. And I've seen people do this kind of thing, not just with floral pages. I've seen them do it on food. Leaflets of food. And because, you know, you can't always distinguish what it is, but you see the colours, it looks brilliant. Give it a try. Another thing to do when you're flicking through these books is use the papers that's not necessarily just images. I've taken all of this paper that I can stamp on or use for other purposes from the front and the back of the books. You know, there's no printed images on there. That's a lovely like linen effect one. And also go to the back of the books and have a look in the index and things like that. See, like there, I'll use that sheet there and I can stamp on it. So I'm cutting it away with my craft knife. I found it's the easiest way to get those pages out than trying to get your scissors right up to the spine. And so yeah, I will go to the back of the book now, and I'll take the back page and I'll use that. Okay, and there's another page there that's plain. I can use that. And then have a look at your index. You know, those are great for ripping up, adding to clusters, things like that. Great for layering, great for collaging, perfect. Absolutely perfect. Script always looks great, so you can always use that. I could even use the dust cover. here. I could stamp on the back of that. It's glossy on the front. I might have trouble gluing it. I don't know. But I could totally and utterly recycle that dust cover and use that for something. Maybe even use it for the cover of my book. And then in this one I'm doing the same, and I am repurposing. I'm looking in the index. Look at all of those different script, and the alphabet there. I could cut the letters out and use those in my clusters or in a collage. I can use those like graph charts there. It's like the months of the year when to sow your seeds or whatever. But it's interesting, you know, like how we use invoices and things like that. You can use these tables. So have a look in the index. There's always really useful things that you can use in your journaling. Yeah, I've got quite a collection there. But what I don't want is I don't want heaps of loose pages. So if I've got some that I'm not going to use, I'll put them in a bundle and slip them back inside the book, like I've done there, and then that book can go on my bookshelf. I don't want baskets and baskets and boxes full of loose pieces of paper, because that's clutter. So here I'm using some of that paper that I've just found in the front and the back of the book, and I'm using, because it's got a bit of a sheen to it, and because it's book page, I'm using my archival inks so that they don't smudge. But I did experiment later on with just my normal Stampin' Up! Pigment inks. You've just got to wait for those to dry, or they will smudge. These won't smudge, but the Stampin' Up! Inks do work. You just got to leave them to dry and not touch them. But once they're dry, they don't smudge. You know, it does work. So here I'm going through my stamps. Have a look what you've got. You'd be surprised what you might have that you could use. You know, I'm lucky. I've got quite a good variety of stamps because, you know, I'm just wise at buying them, and I'll buy stamps that aren't as specific to make one card. You know, I'll buy what I call multifunctional stamps. And here I've got myself a little tray to put everything in, and it was the packaging that came with some desk organisation boxes, and that was the actual packaging. So, you know, it's like double bubble. I love getting something for nothing. And so then I can fussy cut these and I can put them in my tray, and I've got a little collection, and then I know that all of the items in there are all items that I've made from scratch for this junk journal. And later on I do go back with some water-based, just normal markers, and I colour some of these images because I don't want everything brown and grey. I absolutely don't. I want some pops of colour. So have a look at your markers. I didn't use alcohol markers. I used just normal water-based markers and just waited for them to dry on this paper because like I say, it's got a bit of a sheen. So what you want to do is you want to just do a practice run on a little piece of it or a little corner of it to see how your inks take to it, and that's the best thing to do, is to just have a little practice. So yeah, I'm going to go through all of my stamps and stamp a heap of stuff. So one thing that is good about junk journaling, because you're recycling the pages, and because I've only got a couple of books, I'm being really frugal, and I'm making sure that I use every last little bit. I think sometimes with digitals, because I know I can print another one out, I'm not as precious with it, and I could almost be wasteful. Whereas here, because, you know, I've only got so many of those recycled pages from those books, I've got to be a bit more careful and make sure I don't waste. And so I'm saving all of the scraps on my desk there, and, you know, I'm going to be any blank pieces, I'm going to be stamping on them, and I'm going to be making sure I use every last little bit of that paper. So one good way is, you know, just your numbers and your words. So I found this stamp here. That's another Tim Holtz one, but the one with the words and the letters, I think that's a Sam Poole one. And it's really more like to do with Paris and old dates. But, you know, it all adds interest. It doesn't matter if it doesn't necessarily fit exactly with whatever the theme is. I'm not quite sure on the theme on this journal because, you know, with my kits I have a specific theme. This one's going to end up being just more or less just like nature. I'm just going to see how it comes together before I'm going to let it lead me and tell me what its theme is, rather than trying to put a category on it. But it's going to be, obviously, you know, floral nature type of a vibe, but not a specific theme like, you know, a lady's diary or book lover's diary or some of the other fantastic collections that I've made. This is just going to have to be kind of more eclectic. So that's one thing with the junk journals. I think it would be more difficult to do a specific theme unless you had a really wide range of items. Okay, so this is the end of the video, so I'm just going to quickly show you what I've made. So I've already shown you my green leaves, okay, which I'm absolutely loving. Okay, so these are the little components that I'm going to need to put together. So I might have a leaf, I might have you know, a flower like that, or an animal, or a butterfly, you know, and a word maybe. I don't know what we're gonna have. Inspire. Okay, and this is the kind of things, you know, that I'm gonna need to make my clusters out of. Okay, so I've got these leaves all done from, as I showed you earlier. I've got these words that I've stamped, okay, from my various stamps. Words and numbers, they're not all words. These are all fussy cut, and it took me hours, right? All fussy cut from my natural history books. Okay, I've got loads of butterflies, I've got some little creatures, and it's going to be a love-hate thing using these, because like I might have said earlier, once I've used that hedgehog, it's not like I can go and print another one. Okay, I only had one book, and he's the only image. I think I have got one other hedgehog, and I've only got 2 hedgehogs from that book. So, you know, I don't know if junk journaling is going to be for me, because whilst I'm not precious over my supplies, the idea that, you know, once that's used, it's gone and I can't get another. Whereas with my digitals, I could print him out all day long. And if I decide to do another journal in 6 months, I could print it out again. I can't do that with this, because once it's gone, it's gone. Right, so what else did I do? Fussy cut loads of flowers. Okay, and I've fussy cut them. Really cute. And then, as I showed you with the leaves, I've got some butterflies there, but I've got some realistic ones. These are more artistic, you know, from the magazine book backgrounds. Then we've got some larger flowers from the books that I've got. Okay, but I've got a digital kit that's full of beautiful florals. They're stunning, and I could make hundreds of these, but I'm not allowed to use my digitals. So once these are done, they're done, you know. So there's no way I'm making 3 journals, because I'm not going out and buying 50 natural history books. It defeats the purpose, doesn't it? So one thing that I can do plenty of, and that is stamping. I've got quite a variety of stamps, okay? So here we've just got some numbers. So I stamped them on some papers that I got out of the books that I'm using, like the first page and the last page were just plain. So I used those and stamped, and then I've coloured over just the plain, I think I used did I use grey? I used this one. I decided this was my favourite for this. Watering Can, which is a grey. The black was too harsh, and the brown didn't look good with colour over the top. So that's what I've used, Watering Can Archival ink. So I've stamped them, and then I've coloured over with just normal water-based markers. And I've picked some pastel colours. So we've got pink, we've got a baby blue, and then here we've got a lilac, and then this is like a pale green. So all I've done, these are all stamps that I've got in my collection. So I've stamped them, and then I've gone over, like I say, with my coloured markers to create myself some coloured ephemera, because I don't want my journal dark and grungy. Okay, so somehow I'm going to inject some pops of colour. Field label, that's a Tim Holtz one. Just random numbers, and then coloured the background. These are little Tim Holtz ones. What else have I got? Labels. I made a load of labels. Yep, you can print them in all different colours. I used my Stampin' Up inks. I've got them in every colour of the blooming rainbow. So I've done some in yellow, Who says everything has to be brown, grey or black? Okay. Pink. Yeah, and then these little tickets come in a little stamp set that one of my friends sent me. Stamped them out and again coloured them over. You can see that it's this is yellow on the back because I think it was the back page of one of the books. So I've used the paper. So all this paper is recycled paper. More stampings, little tickets. I've even got some little tiny ones. So those are just going through your stamps. Okay, and then here I just punched out some circles from some of the floral patterns in some of the books. And then did some stamping over them. So this, I can make, I've got heaps of these because I've still got the stamps. But this ephemera here, once I've used these, they're gone. And that is a massive, massive thing if you're going to do a junk journal. Because well, they must have thousands of books. Like I say, people must collect for years. I'm not doing that. So I'm going to be having to be quite creative. So touch wood that my stencils come and I can add some elements with that. I've got lots of music paper and we'll see. I'll just have to see what I can come up with and what I can create. Because I don't want to be making billions of leaves and I'm not fussy cutting any more of these flowers out of this book. My hands are sore. So far it's going really well. I'm not wishing I'd never started this junk journal at all. No, I'm only kidding. It's going to be a challenge and I'm up for that. I am up for that challenge, but I'm not up for the challenge by doing it how everybody else does it. I'm going to go my own way. So I hope you'll follow along and I'll see you in the next video. Take care and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.